Hi Homeworthy, I'm Vanessa Arbuthnott. I'd love to show you my home. Come on in.
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
Hi, I'm Vanessa Arbuthnott. I'm a fabric designer with a mail order business and a shop and showroom. And you're here in my home in the Cotswolds. My husband and I, 40 years ago, left London, and after about 8 years and 4 children later, we found this house, which we're going to show you. But at that point it was a cow byre, the cows had left, and it was basically just a ruined barn and cow byre. And we spent the last 32 years making it into a home, and still work in progress. But the children are now grown up and they have children, so that generations are now beginning to enjoy it, which is wonderful for us. My husband's an architect. It was his dream to find a site or something we could renovate, and we ended up here with 4 acres of field with no trees and an empty cow byre. I was slightly horrified at the beginning. Nicholas found it, and so we just took 6 months to make it watertight and comfortable enough to move in, but there were no flooring, well, there were floorboards, but we had no carpets, we had no bed, we slept on mattresses, we had no doors. So it was a leap of faith, put it that way, because we were in quite a comfortable little rented cottage in a nearby village, Sapperton. So I knew Nick would make it amazing, and it was really his vision initially, to be absolutely honest. And then once I could see the shape and the size of the rooms, it was really over to me to work out the colours, the fabrics, and what was our look, what was our sense of aesthetic. That was something we had to discover, really, because we were starting from scratch. So here we are in my hall. It's symmetrical, so you enter and it extends to the left and to the right, and has 2 staircases that we made, quite steep wooden staircases, and we had the handrails made by a local blacksmith. So they're quite unusual. I really love painted spaces, and I love painted floors. I'm not a good one for natural wood, I'm afraid. So I have created this space with all the windows and doors and stairs are all painted a sort of powder blue colour. The floor I've used an Osmo system. It's oil, it's natural, with pigment in it, and you don't have to sand it ever again. Museums use it. You just wipe a bit more of colour into it where it's wearing thin, and by the morning it's hardened off. So this floor is now 30 years old, and it's still going. So this was the basic colour, was this powder blue, and I've chosen ochre yellow to go with it to really warm up the space. And this is a newish fabric which I created, well, newish, during lockdown from a potato. We went up the top of Scotland to a little cottage when we were allowed to, and I just played with potatoes, and came up with this print. Lovely interplay of negative and positive images, and I've given it a little edge of my pretty maid to pick up on the smoky blue colour. In this room we've got a real mixture of family versus old inherited art and furniture, and then newly made pieces by my children and parents and friends. So going over this side, we've got an absolute mixture here. We've got a sort of playful drawing by Rose. Rose is my artist daughter. There's quite a lot of Rose here. And then we've got a portrait of my husband. At one point he was supposed to pop his clogs with cancer, so we had a painting done and a sculpture done, both of which he doesn't really appreciate. Anyway, he survived, so now we're enjoying them. And he actually had me painted to sort of pay me back down the other end of the room. And down here, we've got a little drawing done by Flora when she was terribly young, when my sister got married, which she must have been about 4 or 5, and she painted my sister in a white dress. I framed that, I love it. George, in 95, so how old would he be then? Born in 86, so I think he was 9, was he, is that right? Self-portrait, and the children all come up and say Uncle George, they love that. This was a very early screen print of my first cockerel design. And so it goes on, lots of everything. Rose, Flora, does sort of fun stylized animals. And then over here we've got a huge drawing done by Rose at the Prince's Drawing School, which is just fabulous, I feel. I love it. So it sits there, pride of place. What else have we got? Inherited bits of furniture, brown furniture from my parents. And then the most beautiful Dutch marquetry piece here, which is about the only really special thing we have in the house, and it's full of incredible pottery, and I've layered it actually with other precious things. Flora absolutely loves making all these little ceramic animals that are all lined up at the top of this, carefully placed in here. They're just beautiful, so they're all filled with that, and then masks that we've made with papier-mâché, etc. So that's full of precious things. She works very well. And another inherited chest. This came from Nick's side of the family. It's full of the camping kit. My husband's a sculptor. He absolutely loves sculpting. We have one of his heads here. And Rose did a bronze of my husband's father from a video, actually, a very old video. So that's quite fun. We still have him in the house. It's quite sort of tactile. It's lovely actually having a sculpture of somebody because you can almost put your arms around it. I've got taken the 2 colours, the smoky blue and the ochre yellow, into these roller blinds, which we make in my business, and we've added in this quite clever pellet which covers the roll. So you can use roller blinds in living areas, and it's not just utilitarian, behind a kitchen sink, etc. And it just sits there beautifully, and it's not fussy, and it's so easy to up and down and add light and take away light. So I love that. And up this stairwell we have, so we call it the Mugs Gallery. I have some old portraits of my side of the family mixed with some newer portraits and some quite fun pictures of various members of the family. So that's quite fun. There's a picture of me there as a child, a drawing of me in the silver frame in the middle, and on the right a picture of Rose by a friend of mine with a red cardigan on. And we both look so alike there. So this staircase rises up into our bedroom and a spare room, and that staircase rises up into 2 other bedrooms. And off this hall we have a deep freeze room and wine stored. We have a cloakroom, loo in there, a boot room in there. So there's lots of little spaces that we've used. These pictures are all put up, if you like, it's just spontaneously with no measuring, no spirit levels. They actually evolves too. It's not always the same as other paintings come through, but I just see that slightly themed that side with portraits. This is a portrait of me by Rose as well. So this is all portraits really, and we have a few landscapes, but there's a real mixture. And this area here probably gives you the most. It's got the most eclectic mixture here. So we have unframed painting, frame paintings. Here's a really beautiful old oil painting, much more classic, sitting next to this. And then, more modern art. And then this is Nick's old family school where he was born. So it's eclectic. It's not serious. it's fun, it's playful, and I've tried to make sure that most of the children are represented in it. Ned hasn't got anything in here, who's my youngest son, but I must dig something out actually, now I'm thinking about it. There's a real eclectic mix of fabrics here, some mine, this is an embroidered by my mother for our 30th anniversary, Nicholas and Vanessa, 30 years. This is a sort of dotty check, which is quite a new design, again inspired by Rose. This is a shibori fabric, we call it. This is a hand-printed paisley. It's called Life and Eternity. This is our cow parsley, which is one of our best sellers, really. Just sprigs of cow parsley and butterflies. And this chair, I've got a picture of my father sitting in this chair. How old are we all now? I'm 66, so 64 years ago, I got my picture of my father sitting in this chair with my little sister as a baby. So it's just in a plain yellow, but it's a very lovely old arts and crafts chair. Yeah, so I'm afraid most of the fabrics are mine. Occasionally I was given this by a friend, this little cushion she made for my birthday. I'm sure it's important not to have all my own fabrics. These flowers here aren't from my garden, but I have a florist next to my showroom, and I just spied them and thought they just looked lovely and gentle and natural. So I'm not even sure what it is, but I thought they sit very nicely there. And we always have the door open, and it's an absolutely wonderful thing about the house is that you can just step outside into the garden incredibly easily and sit wherever you want. We have lots of little chairs and benches. But at the minute we've got sprigs of cow parsley in all the hedgerows. So this print becomes very kind of has its moment, It's May cow parsley. In fact, it's happened in April this year, but it's growing everywhere here. And then these are ceramics by children. And I kept, this was made by my eldest child, George, when he was about 9, a coil pot. It's broken and stuck together, effectively. This was made by the girls, I think, this little cat. The grandchildren all love it. I think this was cast around a corn on the cob by Rose in a kiln. Got that, and then there's a little papier-mâché dish that we must have made we used to make a lot of translucent papier-mâché, rather lovely against the light. So it's very precious. I think these are the things that make a home, are the paraphernalia of the history of the family, really. It's a build-up of precious objects, and some of them are in there, and some less fragile are there. So in here we have just an old Belfast sink, and tend to have our family photographs. I don't suppose you really want to be in my loo room, but all round behind you it's full of family photographs. People come in here and they don't come out very quickly. I think they come out and think, my goodness, how old Vanessa looks now, because this is where my wedding photographs are here. And there's lots of memorable, but we're not brilliant at photographs that stand on things because they all get sort of knocked over, and we haven't got those occasional tables for those things, but this is the place really. And I've got one of my wallpapers in here, which I think it's quite fun to, if you like, decorate up a cloak, a downstairs loo, and make it, give it a character, rather than just painting it off-white, like the rest of this house. It's actually painted a lime white, it's like a putty colour. And I reversed it, so rather than having the colour on the walls downstairs, I got the colour on the woodwork and then the neutral on the walls to enable the pictures, the fabrics to stand out and to be the heroes, which I think lots of people do that, but it's quite fun making the stairs the important part of the room really, and letting the colour flow on down like this. When I was trying to decide how to decorate this house, I just went to loads of old magazines and tore out pages of things that I liked the look of and to try and define my style. And one of the things was somebody who had done this similar idea of painting the windows and the colour, the frames, and having a neutral wall. So it wasn't really completely my inspiration, to be honest. My husband's very, very keen on symmetry and vistas, even inside the house, let alone outside the house. So you enter into the middle of one of the sides of this U-shaped cowl byre, enter at the centre of the back. And it's only 1 room thick, this U-shaped cowl byre. And so you enter into a hall, and right opposite you is a huge door which takes you straight into the garden. And so you eventually just see a garden ahead of you with 1 room, if you like, which is the hall. And then you turn left, and we live down on the left of the house, which goes on into a kitchen, dining, sitting room. And then beyond that, we have another big sitting room, which I also use as an office. And I have a work table, which is behind me. And then the other side of the house, we have, if you like, 2 little cottages that we've made. One we let to a friend of my daughter's with her children, and the other we use from time to time for resident artists, or we had some Ukrainians, so we have a little 2-bedrooms unit there, which sometimes we expand into because my family is now growing, so we need all the bedrooms when they come. So because it's 1 room thick all the way around, we have to have a staircase for every pair of bedrooms. Even though you can pass through from bedroom to bedroom to bedroom to bedroom, the children got a bit cross about that when they were growing up, and so there are doors that got locked between the bedrooms, but now it's all open and the grandchildren career around. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 bedrooms and 3 bathrooms on this side, and on the other side 1, 2, 3, another 4 bedrooms on the other side with little bathrooms, and they've all got staircases. And my mum has a ground floor bedroom we made for her, which we nicknamed the Ritz, just to make her feel like it was a treat. Anyway, it's called the Ritz, which is a ground floor bedroom, and it's really to help Mum not have to climb the stairs. And that's it, really. But the courtyard is like another room because it's as if the house has got its arms around the garden in the middle. It's very sheltered, and you can pass through the courtyard to cross from one side of the house to another. So it's like an extended hall. So over the years, the house has continued to evolve, and we've added various spaces depending on the needs, really. We have created studios for my artist daughter up in the top of the barn. Actually, we have a whole series of studios in the drive, which we lend. I don't know, we don't really rent them out, but we have artisans who come every day. We have a leather worker, a weaver, and a painter, and they do things in kind. Like the leather worker decorates for me, and the weaver helped me design some of my rugs. So it's a sort of symbiotic relationship with them, but it's lovely having other beating hearts here. So now we're going to head over into the kitchen, which is also my dining room and a sort of daytime sitting room. So come on, let's go. So here we are in my kitchen, which is also our dining area, and at the other end we have a fireplace and a sitting area. Again, this room grew organically. We never made a fitted kitchen. It developed from, everything started from this cupboard here, which is my father's tool cupboard in his shed. And that's why our kitchen is so high. So it's really hip height, which has been really quite wonderful for working at. So that was the first. And from then I found cupboards in junk shops and repurposed them, got them mended, put a little feature of wood on the top to unite them. I loved glass. I don't like solid cupboards because I can't see what's in there and I forget things. So I just have a few cupboards with glass fronts, and actually behind this room, through this little window, I've got a pantry where I have a dishwasher And I have shelves with all herbs and backup paraphernalia, you know, the coffee, the teas, rice and all that, so I can keep a minimum in this space. This is an Everhot, which is like an Aga, but it's electric. And the handles come up, they're square. And then we had to cut out these little areas of the beam so I can open and close the lid. They're fantastic for ironing. So if you put all your slightly damp washing or bring them off the line overnight on here, it all settles and dries and airs and self-irons in the night. And you can switch, since I'm going to be selling Everhots now, but it's 2 cookers, and you can shut one side down to be more eco and just cook on what you need at the time. So, what have I got? So I've got all my funny cupboards. I've got a whole lot of ceramics. I've sort of gone into this warm, reddy, earthy colour in this room with this, keeping the smoky blue from the hall coming through. I think it's quite good to keep one colour from another room and bring it through. It sort of unites the room. So here we've got terracottas and smoky blues, and these are a whole lot of very favourite old ceramics. This is one I used to design ceramics. This is one of mine, a little jug with a cockerel on it. And this is one I found on Tyree in a Scottish island, a teapot. This is my mother's. She gave me from the Alps. It was a classic alpine pottery in Europe. This lovely jug is made by actually a cameraman for the BBC called Jack Garland, and his father's a famous potter in the next village. And I bought this jug from him. And I got my little fox there. And I've got eggshells that the children have brought in from outside. I've actually got a bee here too, buzzy bee, to show them. So they all mean something. And then I've also got a few extra little bits of art that I love. What was that? Dear Mum, Merry Christmas, love, Flora. I have no idea how old that is, but it's very sweet, isn't it? Here I've got a thing about telling me how much I've got to eat more fibre. So that's a little memoir. Then coming down here, we eat off wooden plates. I have no idea why it started. I think again it was one of my kids, so we have a lot of we eat off wooden platters. So here we have wood. This area here is the dresser, sort of bridges the 2 areas, and the dresser is full of memorabilia, of objects that are precious, and we do eat off the plates. They're not valuable, but they're all nostalgic. Some of these were my early pottery, and I did one up there. So those big plates. There was a design called Out and About. It was really about Italian hilltop town with a little church and a car coming along, and people and those lovely sort of lollipop trees. What are they called? I don't know what they're called now, but anyway, there they are. And ceramics are made by the children. I think this is one of the girls. This one here, 2000, had several breaks. Flora made that with 3 daisies on it. So she must have been she was born in 1990, she must have been 10 when he had that. We have the odd photograph on the dresser. That's George and my grandson Benji. And I have rather a precious photograph of my dad, who died about 15 years ago. Have that there, and again another family picture of my mum and my sister, which is very special, sitting there. So that's a little family group. My brother is not there. And then really coming around into the sitting area, we have full-on fabrics. So we have Little Fern, which was the same as the hall fabric, but a much smaller version. And we've got a lovely little stripe here. It's called Simple Ticking. It's nice to have a stripe. This is May Blossom. Sits there. I think some of these are reflected in the blinds. around the room. So there's an interplay of pattern. It's pattern on pattern, which I think you can do as long as you stick to a colour palette. So I've probably got about 3 or 4 colours going on. Terracotta, smoky blue, a grey, and a dark grey, and then a sort of pigeony colour. And I just stick to those, but I can pile patterns on top of each other. And here we've got curtains and more of these roller blinds that work well with these pelmets in these windows. My husband and one of my kids just can't stop reading books, so there's always books everywhere. I probably read a little bit less, just I like a good novel. We use these 2 bookcases either side of the fireplace. You know, it's sort of a purposeful aesthetics, symmetrical, and adds a little bit, you know, it's a great space for books, and also adds a lot of colour. I certainly don't look into deciding what colour books to go in a bookshelf or on the footstool. A book is a book. But some people I know do that. They kind of think, I think we need a terracotta book on that footstool, but that would be, for me, taking it a bit far, really. So I've got, my daughter Rose loves still alive. She always sits and paints here in the kitchen. We've got 100 studios that she could sit in, but she wants to be here in the heart of the kitchen. So her easel's waiting, and we have quite a lot of her still lives here. One above the fireplace in lovely rustic colours, and then another one over there in ochre yellows. Got Kitty Garland, who is Rose's friend across the way, is really, really good at painting owls. I love this owl sitting here. That was Rose painted on Scottish Island. She found a bit of old floorboard in a garage, and she painted that lovely image. I think it's up in Mull or Skye. This is my sister sculpted Rose. Oh, this is Flora when she was little. And then this is Rose, done by my sister. She's also an artist. And then the Rose did this of an old man. Well, I don't think he's very old actually, but so they all mean something. I'm being very careful not to break them. This was a wedding present. The picture of the Lake District on this side, and then Nestor Nicholas 1984 there. And then Flora did these lovely birds for Christmas, and I'd actually left them up. And of course the wood burner is great. In the winter we love it. On the floor in this house were these bricks, you can see outside, which we lifted and put outside. So they were sort of blue clay bricks that were on for the cows. Don't forget there were cows here, and cows don't want floorboards. So we found these reclaimed floorboards. So all the floorboards we've put in, every single thing in this house is new. And in this room we've whitened them with lime to make them, it's more Scandinavian the look, and it's light and airy. So no, certainly the wood floors are all new. And we've got an oak floor next door, the sitting room. And all the blue tiles went outside to make the paths, which is quite fun, isn't it? Every chair is different, isn't it? I'm not sure that's great, but that's how it's evolved, really. I have a community room in town next to my shop, which we let out to everybody. We let people use it in the community for free for all sorts of reasons. And I bought 20 of these Italian, I'm afraid they're plastic chairs, but they're so resilient and amazing that I've ended up with a few of them here because they can be inside and outside. And they're also very good for older people they got handles. Got another one here. Then we've got this sort of more aesthetically smart little, I don't know really what's going on there, but that's rather beautiful, isn't it? And then this I covered for a photo shoot. It's a Marks and Spencer's little office chair. Everybody loves this. The children love whizzing around in it. So that is also quite fun. I'm not very mixy and matchy. I quite like things to be different. And This table is unusually narrow and very long and has two ends, and we had 15 for Easter. That's how many we are now in the family, including my mum. So this is set up for that, and we'll take these wings off again soon and reduce it down. And then we have a couple of watercolours of my mother's there. We go to Wales, to the beach there, and that's us all in a sandcastle there and then on the beach. They're quite precious, really. And we have an indoor-outdoor, so we can eat out there easily or inside here. So it's really lovely having that opportunity to just jump outside without having to take lots of trays and things. We've got a vine that's just coming into leaf, which gives us lots of lovely shade. And on the other side of the kitchen, we have our vegetable garden, so we can nip out there and hopefully, as long as everything doesn't die of the drought, because I've had so little rain, we can pick a lettuce leaf and some greens out there. And I've got some chickens. In fact, they're absent at the moment, but I usually keep chickens. This is a sculpture Nick did of his mother, and she sits here watching me in the kitchen. Nick's the youngest of 8 kids, and they ran a prep school. So she was a headmaster's wife, and she did most of the cooking and the mending. So she was always by the cooker. So I have her here in the kitchen with me, and she was a very wise old lady. So for lighting, we haven't gone for any spots or anything, but we've gone for these overhead lamps with diffusers in them, so that you don't get any bright bulb light in your eyes. Got 2 of them, but of course we've moved the kitchen around, so luckily we've had extension of this wire, what do you call this stuff, electrical cord, because this table was once in the middle, so luckily. So those are 2 lights that light up those areas. I have a little lamp there, and then these 2 really nice, high, solid lights by the fireplace in lampshades made by my company, my business, again in that same print as the hall curtains. It's called Wild Fern, and it reflects the lovely smoky blue of the Stockholm stripe footstool and the cushions, so there's a huge interplay of pattern, which I think works enough. A lot of people have plain sofas and patterned cushions, but here it's just eclectic. 30 years ago, I went to an auction in Cirencester. We needed a big dresser, and this one came up for sale. I had a baby in my backpack and I think 2 others, and my auction card with my number on it, and it came up, and it was missing this drawer. We had to have a drawer made, but I'd measured it was absolutely perfect, and I sort of came to bid for it, and eventually I had, meant to put up your card with the number, but Ned had put the card down the back of the baby carrier, but I had to get him off and get the card out. And anyway, this eventually I came home and said, I got it. I've got the dresser. So I think it's absolutely perfect. And the bottom of it now is just full of children's toys. That's the plates where the toys live. And I think in a big room like this, it's important to have big bits of furniture, right scale for the room, and this is the right scale for this room. A nice big sofa and a nice big table. Otherwise, you end up with lots of space, and I don't think it works that very well, really. We hang out in this room, Nick and I, in the winter and in the summer, but because next door we have our computer and workstation, if you like, and I have a drawing table and my sewing machine and the telly. That room also gets used a lot. And we have another eating area. This loses the sun in the evening. We have another eating area out there where we get the evening sun. But we don't really need much more than this room, but we do have the backup pantry, which is a lovely old-fashioned word, isn't it? So that has takes away quite a lot of the, if you like, the less aesthetic parts of the kitchen, like the microwave and the dishwasher is round there, and extra pots and pans. So I have got that lovely room, and then beside that's my washroom. So I have a washing machine, and I'm really mad about hanging up washing outside. So that's always quite a trek, but I absolutely love hanging the washing out on lines. It's wonderful. I find it very therapeutic and lovely that, you know, it's free, isn't it? Doesn't use up any electricity. I would describe my style or aesthetic as I discovered it 32 years ago, slowly, as simple, rustic, at that time I was hand printing all my own fabric, so it looked hand printed, unsophisticated, I suppose, but I was really interested in the interplay of colours, and that became, colour was as important as the design. So I was mixing my own colours and combining colours together that were hopefully sitting beautifully with the colours and the landscape of this house. I also wanted to keep the rustic idea was really just to keep with the honesty of the building. I was then doing lots of cockerel and hen fabrics, which I've evolved from that moment, but that's where we started, with simple stripes. And now I've become more playful with pattern. Welcome into, if you like, my office and Nick's office. I do have an office in Cirencester, but I don't go all the time, so this is a very nice workspace in here. It's integrated into the bookshelf, the computers on the table, and yet more paraphernalia on this fireplace. There's lovely painting by a friend of mine. It's a vase of flowers turned around 4 times in black and white. And here I am with my 2 daughters. And this is my daughter by a friend. And so it goes on, really. What have I got here? Oh yes, it's a poem by one of them. And this wedding invitation that we did with lino for George and Cleo's wedding. And luckily we put on it, please bring your wellies, because it rained and rained, so that was lucky. And there's a lovely little thing here from Flora, all her little animals that's sitting there. So that's a sort of lovely place, and this is the workspace. This here is a very important part of the house. The drinks cupboard, highly hidden away there. And so we have books. This is mainly Nick's area. He's the bookie, and he's got this all organised, but don't ask me where everything is. I can see the travel books, but that's about it. So this is the sitting room. The children nicknamed it the gastropub when we did it because of the dark walls. In England it became a thing, to dark grey on the walls. So this is known as the gastropub. The children call it that. I don't call it that. And in here we have a secret telly, of course. We definitely aren't purists. We like our telly. We like to shut it away as well. Another wood burner, a more sort of roundy Swedish one. And then fabrics that came out of my artisan collection, which is made by folding and dipping and dyeing fabric in the Japanese style of shibori. So this is the way of creating these patterns. I obviously had to scan them in and make them into screen prints, but this is how they originated. And it's that, and another fabric up there with Roman blinds. And we've got a few bits of brown inherited furniture here with a few photographs on them. And this fabric here is another one. It's called, this is called shibori, and it's another interplay. You look at it and sometimes you see the spiky sort of yellow shape, and then if you look again you can see there's a flower, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 petaled flower. It's an interplay between those two shapes, which is quite fun. It depends where you are to what you see. And further away I think you see the flower. I have a sewing station. I love having my sewing machine at the ready so I can mend or make. And this is this lovely airy slight space that I can sit and play with designing and cutting potato prints or whatever I want to do. And here I've got this is how that dotty check evolved from something that Rose did for me, and then eventually we formalised it into, we had to make it a bit more uniform, and it became this, and then we had to scale it and colour it. Here we are having a go with different coloured dots. So this is the workspace, and that again falls out into the garden from another angle. Really hot today, isn't it? We've got this wonderful light, which I can move around, but it's fantastic top light in the winter, and just makes the room feel a little bit more modern. I quite like that juxtaposition of an old building but with a slightly more modern interior, and the windows all Scandinavian triple glazed windows. We started off with French windows. On the other side of the house we've got windows that came from a French La Paire supermarket, sort of French equivalent of, I don't know what we call it now, but B&Q or something in France, and we took our old Volvo over and we filled it with the French windows, but they were only single glazed, so we had to replace them. But across there you can see that we still have French ones going on that side, which is quite fun. This is the oak floor, slightly limed. And then on the sofas, just to protect them from sticky fingers and whippets, I've got rugs from Solva Woolen Mill in Wales, who I work quite closely with, and they make and weave all our rugs that I sell through my business, and these are their traditional Welsh design, and they're just nice and heavy and sit beautifully on the sofa. And I've obviously got them here as well, but they're just protecting the footstool from spills. I think it works. And here we've got a lovely round poof I make through my business for people, an extra seat. It's covered in Harris tweed from the Isle of Harris. I'll give you a really quick little potted history of, so I was born in Cumbria, which is up in England, north of England, in the Lake District. And my parents were, we lived in an old farmhouse, and my parents were amateur artists. My mother was a dressmaker, a lot of creativity going on. And I went to an amazing school on the banks of Lake Windermere, which is now a museum called Blackwell, an arts and crafts house, with incredible friezes and all sorts of beautiful tiles, and the aesthetic was beautiful, and I think it all subconsciously gave me an appreciation of pattern, I suppose. And following that, I ended up being a nurse in London. I did a nursing degree at one of the big London hospitals, and I ended up in intensive care, working there, and I met Nicholas. And so I was very much embedded in the sciences. And when we left London and had these kids, I started one morning a week going down to Stroud Art College. We were near Stroud then, which is about half an hour west. And I had a morning off a week, and I wanted to do pottery, but it was full. But there was this thing called surface print, surface design. It had spaces, and I ticked the box, not even knowing what it was, just desperate to have my own few hours to breathe in. And I was completely hooked. It was like some electricity. I just felt so excited by it. So I did it for 4 years, no qualification. I didn't want to do any of what was on offer, you know, I just wanted to do it. And I built up a skill set, which eventually when we moved here, and I had all these windows, I was able to print my own fabric on the ping pong table, silk screens, and my mother made the curtains, so we were a bit of a duet, I suppose. Eventually that publicity from, well, then I let this house out to other people as a location, and they saw what was going on here, and it was one of the big newspapers and a magazine, Country Living, wanted to do features, and the whole thing was launched the business. In the year 2000, I launched it. It grew quite quickly at the beginning, and with a lot of people just coming to me and liking the feel of it, because I hadn't done a sophisticated textile degree, so my fabrics were sort of, if you like, very naive and almost childlike, and they sort of hit the right note with some people. I carried on. I always wanted to do something that wasn't going to damage the environment, so I was always very eager to use organic cotton only to work with. That's always been my big driver, really, is to make sure that I only buy organic cotton, mainly because of all the damage it does to the herbicides and pesticides do to the cotton pickers. I read an awful article and thought I don't want to be part of that. So the ethos has been constant through, and I'm still, I think, to be honest, I don't know any other designer that only uses organic cotton. It's more expensive for a start, but I'd love to know if there are others. And we're also very keen on keeping our carbon footprint low and using very local artisans and upholsterers and cushion makers. So I think we've grown, and we've moved away from this house into the local town, where we have I think, really nice shop and showroom, and people come and visit us there, and all the fabrics are on show. And I think that the fabrics become less image-based, and now we've moved into slightly more subtle shapes and patterns that hopefully have a more sophisticated appeal beyond the chicken, but maybe not. Shall we go outside and have a look at the garden? So here we are walking out into our garden, which is this area down here is wilder with pallied fruit trees. We have a funny, during lockdown, I think it was, my son and husband built this tree house up here, which is suspended from the trees with cables. And that's a great, shady, lovely place to go up and sit. And up there I have another funny little eyrie. So this is all wild, and we have a sand pit and a place to sit. And the courtyard, which is like another room really, is quite formal. And we've used box hedging to, I'm afraid some of it's not very happy, but we've used box hedging to make the shapes. Standard privet, and we have a few standard roses, so it's quite a welcoming space, I think. And the lavender, which is now very old, needs completely changing, it's having its last year on each side. It's I think it's called Augustifolia. It's a late flowering lavender, so it's August, September. We have lots of roses and climbers and euphorbia, which is again quite structural and architectural, and we've left all that this year because I know we've got birds nesting in there. Can I see them? There's definitely a big bird's nest in there. And we've got this little cosy corner here where we can eat, which we might have seen from the inside. And the vine, it's just coming into leaf. It's always very late, but it starts casting a much better canopy of shade over the table. So we sit here quite a lot to eat, but it is very hot today, isn't it? But these standard unanimous, I think they're called, or privet or grow up and give us, again, more shade. And we've got layers and layers of climbers. Here we've got some wisteria, some jasmine, some passion flower, some roses, so there's lots and lots of stuff going on. What I like most about my home here is the light. Every room is lit from both sides because we're this single room to room to room around this courtyard. So We have windows on each side and even on the end here. So I think it's the light. And in the Cotswolds that's quite unusual because a lot of houses are quite old over here in England, very old and very dark. And so here we have a lot of lovely light. I also love the fact that the rooms are able to take quite a lot of colour because of the lightness, and also we're lucky to have quite a good big size rooms. We've created, you know, we were able to define the size of our rooms, and so we can I can use lots and lots of colour. So light and colour, and also I'm absolutely mad about the garden and the birds and the flowers. So I'm just so lucky to be able to walk out with my bowl of cereal in the morning and just listen to the dawn chorus, and watching all the leaves unfurling at the moment is just magical. And then back into the house, into the hall. The planner said that we didn't have room to make another floor in this place, but we did, and it's all quite tight. This is our room. It's a bit like we're in the sort of controlling area here, so I can see all the way down to that bedroom and all the way down to that bedroom from our bed, so we can see who's up, if the doors are open, of course, and we can see what's going on. So this is a really old bed. We cut from MDF, we cut these two ends, just sheets of MDF, and painted them and attached them to our bed base, and it works very well because it's a bit like Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. The children can sit here and face us with cushions, and it works well at Christmas, opening our stockings. And this is a new print of mine called Sunflower, which I made out of lino and launched last year. Kind of a jolly, stylised sunflower. This fabric here, which is on my mother's old dressing room, this is my mother's dressing table, chair and table, is called Four Seasons, and each tree represents a different season. Here we've got all the way from my nursing degree certificate, I think. So to being a nursing, state registered nurse, to an early lino I did in Tuscany, making everything into spots and stripes. Mummy did a watercolour of me sitting, painting in Wales. And photographs. This is my great-grandmother's painting. So they're all old friends. This print is called Fruit Garden. It's a wallpaper. It's very sunny and just sort of fits perfectly in this space. And again, my father's artwork now. Dad's two paintings of Dad's and Mum's and Reflora's. This is a poof that we make through my business, and they're just great for occasional seats, and it works when we're bathing grandchildren. This is an old, lovely bit of old marble. I made some of the tiles in the house. And these tiles, I don't know if it's worth showing you, but here we've got a picture of the four children in the central tile. In fact, my mum painted those for me. She came for a day to my course, and I did the surrounding ones, and she did this lovely little picture of the four of them. And then we enter into the grandchildren room, which is quite fun. It's this sort of quite a strong pink. And I haven't got any grandchildren that like pink, but anyway, it's this colour. It was always been this colour. Flora liked this colour, and I put my collection of dolls over that bed, and there's a few here. Lots of books and toys. So they squeeze in here, and then their parents sleep through there. So it works quite well. And we've got a couple of occasional beds if we want to swell the numbers. This is another bedroom, quite simple room. And got a great patchwork quilt made from bits and bobs of my fabric. The headboard is made from Up the Garden Path, which is one of my best-selling. It's a sort of take on a Swedish design. A friend of my daughter's was wearing a skirt with something like this on it, and I instantly had to draw it, and I just love, I call it Up the Garden Path because of the formality of the design. And this is a design by my husband Nicholas. It's called By the Sea, and it's really one of those lovely, like St Ives. Ooh, wrong way around. Oh, that's the right way around. It's like a St Ives scene where there's lots of little houses and steps going up. And on this side, I think we've got boats and a lighthouse. So that's quite fun, isn't it? This is another quite wonderful bedroom, really, and they have a bathroom in there. So that's one family. George and his children normally have this wing, this bit. And then I'll take you through to what I call Billy's room now, who's 2.5. He sleeps next door to us. So down here, I have another line of bedrooms. This is where normally Billy sleeps, who's 2.5. And this bed here has a new design on it called fine foliage. So it's lots of leaves and ferns that I collected in Cumbria, where we go from time to time, and I pressed them and made that print. I think it's my favourite one at the moment. And this one is called For Love of Rose, and it's got a sort of bohemian couple living in a shepherd's hut. It's just quite fun. And then this is a bit more of the Up the Garden Path. Choosing the colours for these rooms, the children had a choice. I gave them a colour palette that I liked, and then they chose a colour, and this is a Chinese blue by Farrow & Ball. And I'm trying to think who it was. Ned, who had this room, chose this blue. And Flora had the children's room, chose that pink. And then through here, Rose has chose this absolutely wonderful sort of madder red. I can't remember who it's by or what it is, but it's just a sort of gorgeous colour. And she's chosen all these beautiful Indian bits of furniture. So she has this little sideboard, this absolutely lovely pink display cabinet for her precious things, and then they're all classic Indian furniture colours, and then there's that green painted shelving for her clothes. So she lives in London, but she comes to and fro, and this is her room. And this bed is probably, I don't know, 60 years old or something. I got it in a junk shop 38 years ago or something. It's still going. So this is just painted lime white like the hall, and the bed head in Wild and Free, in tomato we call it, the colour, is the hero of the room, really. So I didn't want it to fight with the colour on the walls. So this is all in what I call tomato and teal. The stripe is Stockholm stripe, little fern, and then Wild and Free. And my husband had that picture in his nursery above the bed of some sort of, I don't know what it is, a sort of fantasy hill village or something. And that was from his home. He's now 73, so it's pretty old. And in here, this bathroom here, I painted the tiles. They tell a little story. Of course, they're all covered up, aren't they? I think it starts with oh, here we are. It says, at the beginning, George and Rose, once upon a time, one fine moonlit night, and Flora and Edmund. And there's a story about them going out to sea in a boat, and then the lighthouse flashing. And somebody came to stay recently, and they told me the end tile was upside down, the harbour, and it is. I never noticed it. Hot baths, hot water bottles, and hot soup. No more sea adventures at night, the end. That was where they had their baths when they were little. I think it's because everything was so expensive to make my own fabrics for the windows and own tiles was just really an attempt to save money at the time and to make everything. So it's been nice slowly being able to add in, beautiful bed heads and a few well-made blinds and I kept the tiles, of course, but the rest of it is, some of it's as it was and some of it has evolved. So come with me and we'll have a look at the art studios. I haven't warned him, so we'll see. And we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 studios. So I just popped outside to our studios, where we have 4 studios with very talented craftspeople who come now, on a daily basis, and had the space to be creative here. And this is Jeremy Bonner, who's a very well-known leather worker in the UK, very skilled, and he'll just maybe show you what he's been making, or give you a few words about his work.
This afternoon I've just been cutting out these leaf shapes. I use them as templates for cutting out leather for making these kind of leafy bags.
Wow. And what sort of fruit are they?
This is sloes, particularly.
Sloes. Wow, can you show us how it opens?
Yeah.
Is this a commission, Jeremy?
No, it's just stuff I've just been making lately. So essentially I'm just working from things I see in the hedgerows on my cycle journey into work.
Oh, that's so nice.
So it's sloe berries, bird's eggs, oat galls.
Oh, yes.
So yeah, I'm just making portraits of the trees that I see.
Oh yeah, that's fantastic. So we're all inspired by the nature outside our workshops and home, aren't we?
There's that actually, it's particularly the journey to work.
Oh yes.
It's a 4.5 mile bicycle ride, and it's the things that I see in the morning. It's the brown hares, it's the rabbits, the kites, the merlins, the redstarts, the bramblings.
Gosh, you're so busy looking. I'm surprised you don't crash into the ditch.
But it's all kind of part and parcel of working here, I think. It's part of that joyful experience of working here as well. No, it's true. I've seen more wildlife in those 4.5 miles in the last 8 years than I did for the first 57 years of my life.
Oh, that's really nice.
It's absolutely brilliant,
Yeah,
and it's something I look forward to every day. And what a great view from the studio as well. It's absolutely brilliant.
Good. Oh, there we are. You said all the right things. I didn't warn him or pay him. What makes a house a home is a really, really interesting question. In fact, one of my kids, who's the artist, she has recently just done a master's at the Royal College of Art, and she had to do some writing, and it was all about what makes a house a home. So we had to think about this together, and for me, and even more for her, I think it's about what's happening in the house that makes it the home. The activities, the interests, the hobbies. Everyone can puff up cushions and make a really cosy sitting room, but what are you doing in that space, really? So I suppose and what you're doing should be evident. It's not being afraid of having activities out. So the house is being used and enjoyed, and to have artwork on the walls that isn't professional, just things that people have made, and bits of writing and poetry. Maybe, what Rose likes is slightly chaotic interior, with everything out and books being read, and I'm probably a bit more, let's put things away a bit, but I also love the fact that my sewing machine is ready to sew. I don't have to put it away. My art table's ready to go. My husband has his own drawing area for his work. So I suppose it's what gives the house a beating heart, is really the activities going on inside it. And for me, and helped by Rose looking into that, that's, I think, if that makes any sense, that's how I'd answer that question.
Thanks for watching. Go to homeworthy.com for exclusive content and shopping guides.